Trinity Church in New York City is of enormous historical significance. But I'm sure as Alexander Hamilton, Robert Fulton, and John Watts would agree, the only constant in this city is change. And for this national treasure, it was time for a refresh. Now, Jeff, this task was placed on your shoulders.
Yes.
Where do you begin?
Well, we started this project about 6 years ago where we revised the master plan we had done earlier. And then we jumped right into a design process and identified three main goals for this project. One was to enhance the worship experience inside the building. And the second really was in making this a comfortable place for the people who both work here and worship here. And then the third was sustainability, trying to make this building as sustainable as we could.
Sustainability, you're kidding. In an 1840s building.
Absolutely.
I can't wait to see how you pulled that off. Now, Jeff, with a project like this, I know you didn't do all this yourself.
No, we did not. We had this extraordinary design team. Our job was really to harness all of that brain power and get everyone talking to one another and collaborating.
And one of them was an archaeologist.
Absolutely, yeah. If you look around you, you see a lot of graves. We did a lot of disruption to this yard, putting in new walks and ramps and infrastructure. And so a big part of this was being very sensitive to what was here and using that archaeologist to help us do that. One of the important design considerations was really treating this building as an artifact. They needed to have an awning to facilitate the procession, but yet they wanted it to sort of disappear. Yeah. And so if you actually stand from Broadway and look at this, you see these stanchions, which are sort of a riff on Gothic architecture, sort of melding into the color of the brownstone. And then there's the transparency of the glass. And, you know, from a distance, this actually goes away.
Oh, Jeff. Oh my, what a space.
Yeah, it's pretty extraordinary, isn't it? You know, when we first came here, this space was actually quite dark. The clerestory windows were yellow glass put in the 60s. The lighting was all down lighting, so you couldn't see the architecture of the ceiling. You know, this place looks very different than it did 6 years ago.
Now, I bet, Jeff, there's a story about the stained glass windows.
We worked with Feminella to restore and actually build new stained glass windows in some cases. We put protective glazing on the building and we realized that it had multiple impacts. It not only protected the stained glass, it also had acoustical properties that really helped the acoustics in this space. And then of course it helped us tighten up the building and make it more sustainable.
So the thermal properties,
yeah.
That's going back to your sustainability story.
Yes, we also added a thick layer of insulation in the attic. We tightened up all of the seals on the doors, and then we reworked the HVAC system. So, you know, those extra measures really made this a much more sustainable building.
I find it interesting, Jeff, that there's all these craftspeople, all these tradespeople that still do this kind of work in the 2020s.
Yeah, it's kind of incredible that they do still exist, but it was Siami's responsibility to go out and find those people. So for instance, we had Rugo do all the mosaics and the stonework up on the chancel. We worked with Zepsa to build new pews and also restore all the wood here and in the sacristy. We worked with Glottergotts, who installed 2 new organs here. This is a German company that designs organs. So
who would have thought they're still building organs like this?
Yeah, it's incredible.
Now, Mary, you're another architect who worked with Jeff, and you worked a lot with this stone.
This is a brownstone building. This is a typical stone of the era. And believe it or not, these columns and the tracery around the windows are really the only thing in this church that are actually stone. Everything above the spring point of the column is actually plaster.
You're kidding?
All of the
all of that is not stone?
It's all plaster. And it's made very intentionally to look like stone. This was a technique where you put a thick layer of plaster on the wall, and then you score the joints three-dimensionally into the wall so they really, really look like stone.
Oh, it's good to know they were faking it back in the 1840s as well.
They were faking it.
Reverend Jackson.
Morning, Mike. Good to meet you.
Tell me about this restoration. What did you want to achieve?
Well, first of all, let me just say that it wasn't a restoration as such. And the reason for that is because when you're talking about restorative work, you're taking it back to where it was. We began calling it a rejuvenation because we were also rethinking what is the role of Trinity Church today? Come on, let me take you up on the altar and I'll show you some things up there.
Okay, can he come too?
Yes, come on. Let's go around this way. So I want you to feel the heft of this block of marble.
Oh yeah, that's the real thing.
This is the real thing. This is the altar. And if you can imagine that before this project, this high altar was attached to that piece of stone, which is called a reredos.
Okay, these tiles were covered over?
These tiles were covered over. These tiles on the right and these tiles on the left are all original 1876. These were all recreated to match these. And the reason why we went through the trouble of taking this off is up until the 1970s, the priests used to celebrate the Mass with his back to the congregation. We realized that we wanted to face the congregation, so we asked the architects if we could take it off and bring it down here, and now we would be able to use this beautiful high altar for the first time again since the 1970s. The other thing I'd love to tell you is the only time in this project when I cried. When I cried. The altar had been taken off and had been dismantled and lay in pieces on the ground. And I thought, oh my goodness, what have I done? and so I called up Jeff Murphy, the architect, and I said, Jeff, I've made a big mistake. The altar's in pieces, they're never gonna be able to get it back together again. He said, don't worry, it's fine. Each piece is numbered, we know exactly where everything goes. He said, it will all come back together perfectly, you'll see. And I said, I hope so, I hope so.
Are you okay now?
I'm fine, look.
You got what you wanted.
Yeah, it worked beautifully,
There's so much more to this rejuvenation and restoration. The sacristy and clergy spaces. There's even a full-blown television studio that's been added. This has been a project of gravitas that's demanded the steadiest of hands from its design team and trades.